Humans have had a close relationship with animals for thousands of years. Scientists agree the domestic dog has been a trusted pet for around 15,000 years. And cats became part of the household from 10,000 years ago. And now it's estimated there are at least 600 million pet cats in the world. Exotic pets have also been kept for thousands of years. It's well documented that the Egyptians kept baboons as pets, and exotic animals kept in the home feature in many ancient texts. In modern times, the keeping of exotic pets has increased. A staggering statistic is that there are more tigers in the U.S. alone than there are in the wild. Animal owners truly believe they are playing a role in preserving the numbers of exotic animals. But on the other side of the debate, there are those who believe it is a cruel practice to keep any animals in captivity. This series explores the issues from both sides, from those who know the dangers, but see the benefits, to others who condemn the keeping of exotic pets. Their stories follow.
There are 48 animals that we had to put down. Those animals included 1 wolf, 6 black bears, 2 grizzly bears, 9 male lions, 8 lionesses, 1 baboon, 3 mountain lions, and 18 tigers.
I remember it all happening on a Wednesday evening at about 10 till 7 is when I received the first phone call. We became international news by the next morning.
It was just a disaster waiting to happen.
Zanesville is a sleepy town in Muskingum County, Ohio, with a population of just over 25,000 people. Until 2011, Zanesville was best known for its Y Bridge and many beautiful parks. It's one of the last places in the world you would expect to find an exotic pet owner with so many animals. But on one fateful day, the worst example of exotic pet ownership brought Zanesville to the attention of the world.
Zanesville is a very small, agricultural, very family-oriented community. Everybody knows everybody, and everybody knows what everybody's doing. It's a small town.
One of these small-town residents was lifelong inhabitant Terry Tompson, a decorated Vietnam War veteran whose main role had been as a machine gunner on a Huey helicopter. His wife, Marion, was an avid horse rider and a local school teacher. Many locals knew the Thompsons kept exotic animals, but Terry was better known as the man who flew a light plane under the Y Bridge. A notorious hoarder whose property was scattered with old cars and a dangerous mix of guns and wild exotic animals. Terry had drawn attention to himself many times over the years with his unusual behavior. Local police sergeant Todd Knavel has vivid recollections of Terry Tompson.
We had dealt with him off and on. He had just been released from prison just a few days before this incident on a firearms charge. We had dealt with him in the past also about the animals, just checking on their welfare and the safety of the public as far as the containment systems that he provided them and such. He had several animals then, 70-some, I believe. He had tigers, he had lions, he had black bears, he had grizzly bears. He had different apes. One time, he had camels, numerous horses. There was just animals everywhere. In the garage, there was a couple of tiger cages. There was a bedroom where a mountain lion, I think, lived. There was monkeys in the basement in a cage. Yeah, Terry was different. Terry always kind of pushed the envelope, but Terry was Terry. He was never really disrespectful to me or anything. I was always concerned that either Terry or Marion would be attacked by the animals. I realized they had a good rapport with the animals, but they're still wild animals. and something would trigger him. I figured maybe someday we would go up there and find one of them severely injured or killed.
The sergeant's fear was realized on the evening of October 18, 2011. Terry's notoriety was about to extend beyond the small community of Zanesville. As the day drew to a close, it is believed that he cut open the cages of more than 50 of his wild animals, setting them free before taking his own life. Senator Troy Balderson was born and bred in Zanesville and had been a member of the Ohio House of Representatives since 2009. This incident was a trigger for him to amend the legislation surrounding exotic pet ownership in Ohio.
About a mile down the road that evening, there was a tournament soccer game going on. There could have been a lot of tragedy, and there wasn't. For the most part, no one was injured. That was one of the biggest accomplishments that I feel that came out of the situation.
The next thing I saw was this black figure. It turned out it was a bear.
Sam Kopchak is a retired school teacher and lived next door to Terry. That evening, he was out in his own yard attending his own horse, Red, when he saw Terry's horses acting strangely.
I saw the horses that were over there. There's probably about 60 horses I estimate that they had. They were going around a circle. And I said, well, they're not supposed to do that. Something's going on, you know.
Then Sam saw something even more out of the ordinary.
I actually got Red up there by the corner. We walked down through here, and I just felt like something was looking at me, and I kind of turned to the left, and big male African lion, he came down. This is about the spot he was sitting. He just sat down right there, and just kind of, you know, like that. And I just kept on going, and I never looked back till I got down to the white fence with my barn. And then after I was down by my barn, he was pacing back and forth on the fence. As you can see, this is like a 7-strand ball, not a barbed wire, just a smooth wire. And if he wanted to leap over that, he was big enough that he could have leaped over that fence.
What Sam soon realized was that the lion was just the beginning of what was about to unfold.
So I actually saw like 6 animals. The original bear, and then the lion, the male lion, and the female lion, and another bear, and the wolf went by, and the tigers.
Sheriff's office.
Yeah, I think I just seen one. Looks like a jaguar or a wolf or something. It was everywhere.
I received a call that some of the animals were out. We weren't sure to the extent of the situation, but I was requested to come to the scene. When we arrived, we were advised by one of the patrol sergeants that he had been up in the compound area looking for Terry or Marion and had seen a body laying out in a field. That was our first priority, determine who it was and if they were injured or deceased. We were first approached by, I believe it was 2 tigers come out of a barn towards us, and as they rushed the truck, we were forced to dispatch them. Then we arrived in the area of where the body was, and it was quite apparent whoever it was deceased. There was a white tiger chewing on him. About that time, we were advised that there was 2 cats ready to exit the compound area on the south side of the property, so we had to go over there and dispatch those animals. I didn't know how many were out, but once we got up there, I had made contact with the sheriff that appeared that everything had been turned loose. And I mean, there was bears, there was tigers, there was lions running everywhere. It was a huge concern because it was later in the evening. You know, if it got dark, the only thing securing that property is just a regular barbed wire fence like you would have for cattle or whatever. You know, these animals would have easily cleared that, and in a short time they'd have been in populated areas and injuring, you know, humans. There was some that had escaped the perimeter, but we had set up officers along the perimeter to contain that. I discussed with the sheriff what our situation was. There was no other option except to dispatch the animals. We started engaging the animals at different distances. Some were shot 30 to 50, 70 yards away. But then it came to where we had to go to the barn areas and that because they were in there. And yeah, we had one lioness come at us We ended up having to shoot her, and she was stopped probably 3 feet from us when she finally went down. Most of us had AR-15s shooting the .223 round. I was concerned that maybe there wasn't enough power, but after we engaged a few animals and saw that, you know, the rifle was doing its job, then I felt a little better that, you know, we could be safe. It was a coordinated effort to try to keep everything safe and contained.
Sam became an unwitting bystander to a grisly scene.
I saw the deputies pull in, and my first thing was, well, there's going to take more than 2 deputies to take care of this, because if all those animals are out. And I saw a truck, and there was several, probably 4 deputies on the back with the guns, and they drove back there. And within a few minutes, I could hear shooting. It just sounded like a big fireworks display. It just kept on. It seemed like it went on forever. I saw them going across the field, just like hunters, you know, with a gap between them with their guns. 49 animals that they killed, and 1 missing, and 6 that were in the house. So it's 56 total animals that were there.
It was quickly determined that it would have been impossible to control all these wild animals using tranquilizers. And the decision to use live ammunition undoubtedly saved human lives.
To the best of my knowledge, there was 1 tiger left, and the veterinarian there, I think her name was Wolf, she went over and got a perfect shot with a tranquilizer, hitting perfectly where she wanted to. I mean, she, I guess, made the determination how much to give him, you know, how big he was. And he was in the weeds and so forth, and he come immediately charging out of there, and if the deputies weren't there, he'd have probably got her. They had to shoot it.
When it comes down to a situation like that, I realize you know, the animals have rights, but humans have more. And you couldn't justify risking human life for the animals. They had to be somewhat scared. They were out of their containment systems, running loose. You just didn't know how they were going to react. You could kind of surmise that he had let them go. But it wasn't until, you know, the investigation was completed later, we were pretty much, we knew that's what had happened. You know, even if you'd found them in some of their containment systems, he cut the fences so that you couldn't recontain them. I'm glad it turned out that no one got hurt. To have that many animals loose, we were just very lucky that we caught it when we did. You're not ready for something like that. We had to deal with what we had to do, and that's why I think they've come out with legislation on this kind of practice. It's not feasible. Safety for the public or for the animals.
Immediately following the incident, Ohio ultimately banned the ownership of exotic animals and their transportation across state lines.
We don't want to see these animals lose their lives over something like this. They are wild. I mean, these animals are not domesticated. They are wild animals. That's what I kept trying to focus on. That's what I did focus on when we did this legislation. They're wild. We knew something needed to be done. The administration knew that something needed to be done, and we had to stand up and do the right thing for the state of Ohio. And that's what, you know, I had to make that decision also. Challenging as I knew it was going to be. I knew there was going to be a lot of negative feedback from taking on a piece of legislation like this. You know, before I started doing this legislation, I did travel the state of Ohio and going to sanctuaries that, you know, that's the challenging part. There were people that had sanctuaries that were doing it respectfully. You wanted to look at both sides of it, but you also had to take the responsibility to make the right judgment, to set the mind of we weren't going to do this. We weren't going to allow you to have wild animals without certain restrictions that you had to abide by. We had a facility at the Department of Ag that was built out there that took in the people that could not find places for their wild animals. They could take them to the Department of Ag. We stored them there until we could find some place to go. There are good places out there with facilities that are capable of handling these animals, and you know, it's someplace for these owners that can take their animals that they can still have a relationship with. They can still go visit, they can still go feed. I think that was important to a lot of them.
You know, it's still there and always will be there, you know, in your mind about it. I'm just so thankful that nobody got hurt, and it's terrible that he had to die. It's a very sad thing. All those animals are buried back there along the road where they buried them. I mean, they dug a big put them all in there. And see, they laid them all. So that was the bad picture on the internet that made people irate, because all those animals, when you saw that scene, and the sheriff was very upset. They don't know who took those pictures, and they put them out. But I mean, but they had to lay them out so they would know they had them all. And the caretaker was the one, like I said, that was counting the heads and telling them, well, yeah, we do have them all or whatever with it. But that made it a terrible scene too, because you see all of them lying there, you know, like that. So it wasn't too nice to see. But they're beautiful animals, and you hate to see them get killed. But if you got a choice between the animals and people, you got to save the people, and that's what they did.
Exotic pets take all shapes and forms, and often the owners have an incredible and very special bond with their animals. And this is undeniably the case with Lisa.
Oh, baby money. You see this little itty-bitty baby. It's cute as can be. But that little itty-bitty baby is gonna tear you apart.
At no point should you ever feel complacent with a monkey you've never met before. This monkey was only after the owner's camera, but it's an intense reminder this is a wild animal.
If you buy a monkey, be prepared that you are gonna get attacked.
Lisa and Mugwai have been friends for 24 years. A commitment that's incredibly rewarding, but also very demanding. Unless you're an educated monkey owner, you're in for a disaster.
Every single monkey bites, and it's gonna bite you, no matter what you do. So, you know, a monkey has to be tamed, and then it can be trained. So it's a process that you have to go through, and it takes a lot of taming to become a good monkey.
When you have a good monkey, it's easy to make new friends. But if your monkey is a little wild, it may bite strangers. Many vets will only examine a monkey when it's sedated to avoid any unwelcome wounds.
When these animals hit 6 years old and start going through puberty, they can become wild, vicious, dangerous animals. You know, the training that they've often learned, the domestication they've learned at that early age, that pretty much goes out the window, and you are dealing with literally a whole different animal.
Monkeys frequent the tourist circuit in Thailand, and they may seem super cute, but you always need to keep your guard up and pay attention to what may become aggressive behavior. Don't be deceived by their so-called friendly antics. These monkeys are wild.
A lot of these animals carry diseases that are communicable to people. They're called zoonotic diseases. And a zoonotic disease is any disease that can be transferred from pet or animal to person. And some of the diseases are quite serious. Non-human primates carry herpes and monkeypox and Ebola. So again, if you don't know what you're doing, sanitation, care, so forth, then that's something that you can take on, or a family member or a friend who's visiting, because the disease is now spread around your home. You have to step back and look at all that's involved, do your research and education, depending on the pet and what's involved. The take-home here is never should it be taken lightly, owning an exotic pet, regardless of the size or the species.
We still have monkeys in the United States that are carrying disease. Probably only a third out of the 40,000 monkeys out there and growing each and every day, they are not vaccinated. We've been vaccinating these monkeys for years and years and years. And we do a serology test to screen everything that imaginable that they could possibly have.
This isn't a pet for someone keen on owning a low-maintenance animal. Monkeys can be a handful.
She's very calm though. She'll sit and she'll watch a movie with you, have some popcorn. She doesn't get into a lot of things. She used to when she was 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So over the age of 12 to 13, then they really start to be a part of your life.
Capuchin monkeys reach maturity around 5 years, at which point their personality can become even more demanding and potentially aggressive. If you're the prime carer, you really need a lot of training to make sure the relationship stays on track.
She is 8 pounds. So that 8 pounds coming at you full force, that's a lot of monkey there. Really, seriously, it's a lot of monkey. She's strong.
A monkey on the attack is a situation to be avoided at all costs. However, for Lisa, this inherent wild animal instinct saved her life.
They're very smart, yes. I was attacked. I came home from work and I was attacked in my garage, and my monkeys saved my life. A man had grabbed me from behind. Inside my house, on the 2nd floor, they have their 2 monkey rooms. And if it wasn't for all 4 of them that came downstairs and attacked him, I probably wouldn't be alive today. All I gotta do is give her one sign, and it's she becomes the wild animal that everyone sees. I love her to pieces. We are 2 people that are inseparable.
Capuchins are most notably renowned as pets of organ grinders, and were in fact introduced as exotic pets from their home territories of Central and Northern South America. These mischievous rascals certainly kept the audience entertained. Plus, they had the ability to carry a cup around to collect money. From this, their popularity grew for those wanting an unusual pet.
There's pros and cons where exotic pets are concerned, because our biggest problem is the caretakers and owners that own them don't have the education that they need.
Lisa has trained around 3,000 to 4,000 monkeys, often referred to as the monkey whisperer. Lisa is the go-to person if your monkey is misbehaving.
When I take her to train other monkeys, she helps. And, you know, it's great for the other monkeys to see that they can actually be loved, that they can be touched without being hurt. Or, you know, the mistakes that these owners make by using gloves and using weapons and the shock collars and things like that. I mean, it's still going on today.
Owning a monkey is a commitment for up to 30 years or more. While capuchins are the most intelligent of the New World monkeys, in the human world, they are like toddlers.
But that's how naive these people are. They think that they're humans and they can treat them as humans. But they're wild animals. They have to have a habitat. Not a little tiny bird cage, a habitat. So they can be free. They can jump, they can climb, they have things to do all the time. Muggy's surrounded by so many. You know, they need their own kind to be able to communicate, to socialize, to groom each other. That is a healthy animal in captivity. I have a huge facility. A lot of people have come to my door and dropped their monkeys off. A lot of them came that way, and all the monkeys that are there have either been injured, they've been rescued, or they've been dropped off. You have to be a very experienced person to have a primate. It's a huge responsibility. I do believe that any of the larger monkeys should not be kept as, quote, pets. But I do not call them pets, I call them companions.
These devoted companions may need a lot of ongoing training, but just like humans, they are always capable of a little monkey business.
I studied animals. I studied monkeys, their data, the brain waves, their anatomy. And because they're so human, you open her up, she's just like me. You know, so it's so beautiful, a creature that can do anything that we can do. I mean, she started my van, and her and Madeline ran it into my house in the garage. So this is how smart they really are. You know, you cannot turn your back.
Mugwai may be a troublemaker at times, but she also knows when to be well-behaved, especially when there's the opportunity to go toy shopping for her birthday. But first, a quick sketch as a thank you gift. After all, Muggy's a very polite little monkey and doesn't want to turn up to any event empty-handed.
Her name is Mugwai.
Mugwai. Hi, Mugwai.
Happy birthday.
She'll be 24.
Oh, 24, that's amazing.
What?
This for you. She painted it.
Oh, are you kidding me? That is awesome.
Outstanding.
Oh, nice.
Thank you.
That is really cool.
Ron may not have a monkey in his store every day, but he's certainly keen to help Muggy find the best present she's ever had.
Yeah, we're good.
Let's go shopping.
You like that one?
No interest in that one.
No? Okay.
When it comes to shopping, Muggy is a girl who knows what she wants and certainly loves all the attention.
Hey!
You wanna check it out?
Come here. Come here.
Oh,
Aw, look at the little princess in her chair. Here you are. Look how cute. You got a chair.
You ready? Come on.
Let's go.
All right. You have something like this.
Try as she might, Muggy's not listening to Ron's sales pitch for these toys.
Up. Let's go.
Up, up. All right. Right here, it's like a little Jeep Wrangler. What do you think, sweetie?
Oh my goodness.
Looks like Ron has finally ticked all the boxes.
Back up. Ding, 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 ding. Ready? Let's go. One, 2, 3.
Are you a thrill seeker?
Thrill Seeker Yellow doesn't seem to hold as much appeal. However, the scooter looks like fun.
Okay, hang on.
Got a good grip of us?
Ready? You got a steer. Yeah!
After all that adventure, it's time for a quick pit stop.
Nerds are your favorite?
Oh,
What do you think of those, baby?
her ultimate favorite candy.
Oh, perfect.
Oh yeah. Her,
The texture and the
yeah.
creation and everything. I got a few more for you, Bubba.
There's a lot of controversy about owning a monkey. Not all monkeys have a great reputation, and many certainly aren't as well behaved as Mugwort. But it seems the key is all about good parenting.
All right, sweetie, your total is $64.94. You see it right there? Yeah, that's gonna be for your new car, your new Jeep. What do you think about that? You gonna be a journey girl? You can go on journeys with Mama? All right.
Here.
She's like, yeah. Yum yums?
It comes down to how well they are taken care of, and that is the big picture. I get judged every single day. But what it comes down to, when they lose control of that monkey, who do they call? You can call me names, you can say whatever you want to say, but at the end, you're going to be begging for my help. You know, and am I going to turn that person away because they were crappy to me? No, I'm going to help because it does not matter. I don't care about them. I care about those animals. That's what really matters to me.
The Greater Wynnewood Exotic Animal Park in Oklahoma hosts some of the country's most interesting big cats. And is home to star personality Joe Exotic.
Originally, I was born in Kansas, grew up in Wyoming, moved to Texas, was there 16 years, and ended up here when my brother got killed in 1997. We built this facility as a memorial to him because his dream was to go to Africa. I've been doing this 32 years now. Started actually almost 16 years before I moved here. And that's what me and my brother had, was an exotic pet store. And that was where I got my first lion, 16 years before we started it. I have built myself my own prison because you can't leave here. I went to Walmart 3 years ago, came back, and one of my staff members lost an arm.
911, what's your emergency? Hey, this is Bobby at the GW Zoo. Uh-huh. I need a helicopter. I've got an employee that was attacked by a tiger, and he's hurt bad. Is it care flight, I guess? We have aerovac here. Okay. We'll have them head that way, okay? Okay, thank you. You're welcome.
That's something that I never, ever want to see again. So I've never left here since.
It's a potentially fatal attraction, but Joe's captivation with predatory animals has persisted.
Animals has always been a fascination to me. I picked up sick animals when I was little and pretended I was a vet and nursed them back to health, so it's just kind of something I've been born with. The showman side. You know, it's just because I say what most people are thinking, and they're too scared to say it, and I have fun. Anything I do, you can give me a bowl of Cheerios and a glass of milk, and I can motorboat around that bowl all day long. Entertaining, I love to entertain.
'Cause I saw Tiger.
Joe's love of entertaining has led him to pursue many careers in the spotlight, which have seen him adopt the stage name of Joe Exotic. Most recently, he's combined his passion for exotic animals with his successful country music career.
Singing is kind of an escape from reality to me, and I can write songs about how I feel, the way people act, misery, happiness, and that's just something that I use for an escape.
I'm pumping iron.
Sure, he's a little eccentric, but he does have ambition. In 2016, he ran for president against Donald Trump.
I laid in bed one day during the presidential election, and, common people like you and I never get heard. That's a fact. You can vote all day long. You can send a letter. You'll never get a response, and if you do, it's a form letter. So I laid in bed one night, and I was like, how in the hell do I ever have a voice? Woke up the next morning, filled out my federal papers, signed up to run for president, and I learned more in 11 months of running for president of the United States than I did in 12 years of high school. So we gave him a run for the money. People are like, you lost. I didn't lose anything. 100 million people know who I am. I got my voice out there. I got my opinions out there. I think we won a lot. Give your money away there so you can see where it's going and where it's still to help.
Joe's first love, however, has and always will be his animals.
The first time I rescued a tiger, and I still have her. She's 27 years old. That was my first real connection. And when you help something, there's a much different connection there than if you buy something and try and make it a pet. Taking unwanted abused animals, I have a whole lot more sense of being able to work with them. I'm like their savior, and they know that. We are here to educate the world, entertain people, and take care of animals. I don't like the word sanctuary. We're a zoo. We're open to the public. We buy, sell, breed, take in unwanted animals. There's everything here. We have 450 plus animals. We have everything from Michael Jackson's alligators to Steve Martin's chimpanzees to just John Doe's tiger out of his backyard. We have a diverse family of animals of all kinds and people of all kinds. People ask me every day, well, how do you train these tigers? I don't train my tigers. I walk among my tigers. And if they want to be petted, we pet. If they want to be loved on, we love. If they're laying over in the shade or the sun, and they have their ears back and they just want to be left alone, they're left alone.
The American Veterinary Medical Foundation states that once in captivity, no wild or exotic animal species should be re-released into the environment. For many of Joe's animals, his zoo is their final home, and he believes this is the safest place for them.
The only safe place for an animal in the United States is in a cage, in a zoo, or somebody's yard that can properly care for them. Unfortunately, society in today's world won't allow even a rehabilitated animal to be turned back loose in the wild. We just had a bear in Oklahoma a couple months ago, a wild bear, come up on a lady's porch in town. I said, what do? They kill it. You know, they hunt it down and kill it because it come into town. And this is the most important thing that I hope anybody gets out of anything that I'm saying is animals in the wild have no rights, none whatsoever. We trash our oceans. We build cities in our wetlands and our mountains. We took away their habitat. But if you properly care for and you don't take away from the wild, I believe any animal that's bred in captivity, you have a right to own it as long as you take care of it.
While animals like the black bear are native to the States, other animals such as lions and tigers have been imported, making their care and welfare once they arrive a hot topic. The placing of exotic animals in wildlife sanctuaries and the motivation behind doing so is a highly contentious issue.
The federal government of the United States, and this is what we're working on right now, has tigers and lions on our Federal Endangered Species Act. Okay, our Endangered Species Act was designed in 1972 to protect native species of our lands. Tigers, lions, kinkajous, orangutans have no business on our endangered species list. Okay, but put them on our endangered species list, what that has done is, you know, private citizens are not allowed to possess, own, breed, interstate commerce, which means sell across state lines or anything like that. 2 months ago, you saw online that there's too many tigers in America. A month later, we put them on the Federal Endangered Species list. In the meantime, they ship a circus tiger in from Peru to America and 13 lions from another country. Somebody's got to make up their damn mind. Have we got too many in America? Do they belong on the endangered species list in America? And why are we shipping them in? Because it makes good rescue stories. We rescued a tiger from Peru, and we need to raise $33,000 to care for this damn thing. And they euthanized it 6 months later because the money train ran out.
As yet, there's no central database or requirements for exotic animal owners to record and report on the disposal of animal bodies. The recommendation is for the bodies to be cremated to ensure animal parts don't find their way onto the black market. Between 2000 and 2004, more than $100 million was made from the sale of wild animal imports, making it a lucrative business. Ever one to speak his mind, Joe considers it's the money rather than the care and protection of animals that drives many sanctuary owners in the U.S. It is a controversial opinion, and whether he is right or not is yet to be determined.
There's 2,800 registered tigers in America. There's less than 3,000 in the wild. Every sanctuary in this country is the same one. It has nothing to do with helping animals. All you have to do is take the board of directors' names and pull up their tax records of what property they own. And I'll guarantee you every one of them lives in over a $800,000 house. This ain't about animals. This is about money. Understand this. If you raise money for animals at a particular nonprofit facility, it better be spent for them animals. See, here in America, you have to be licensed by the United States Department of Agriculture and be inspected to make sure that you're taking care of everything right and following protocols and vet care and all that stuff. Only if you're open to the public. Now, if you're a sanctuary that doesn't exhibit and you're closed to the public, God only knows what's going on behind them walls. Okay, and see, that's another problem with most of these sanctuaries and these organizations is they want animals in sanctuaries with no contact, how would you like to be thrown in jail and never touched or never loved on?
As much as Joe loves his animals, they remain at heart wild and unpredictable creatures. Some of Joe's most dangerous residents are his bears, and he knows all too well the potential risk of keeping these unpredictable animals in close proximity to humans.
I've not had good encounters with bears. We actually have 4 grizzlies here and 3 black bears. They're just as personable as any other animal. Ozzy, who is our largest grizzly bear, will sit up and give you a high five and French kiss you and everything else. Ozzy came from Kansas, and back in the early 2000s when Kaylee Hildebrand was killed by a tiger getting her senior picture taken. Kansas panicked and passed some laws that made it illegal for private owners to have animals, and that's where Ozzy arrived to us from. Was a private owner who just had some exotic animals, and this bear loved that guy. And when he arrived here, he was probably 6 feet tall, standing up on his back 2 feet, and this guy walked him around the park just like it was a dog. He is 100% lovable as long as that fence is there. That is as much his security blanket as it is for our safety. I've been in with him. He's 100% different bear. He weighs about 1,400 pounds. You know, during the summertime, they eat less, they lose a little bit of weight. During the wintertime, they eat more and they put it on. For a Syrian grizzly, he's pretty large. Bears are not as predictable as a lot of animals are, in my opinion. Bears is something that I've really never specialized in working with because they're just so moody. I had a black bear at one time that we raised called Little Bear, and she grew up in the gift shop years ago. And she got out of her enclosure one day and went back to the gift shop and decided to wreak havoc in the gift shop because she was playing. You know, everything on the shelves had to come off the shelves. And I put a harness on her and went to walk her out. And bears are much different than tigers. When they lay their ears down and they do that, you're gonna get bit.
Bears may be different to tigers, but that doesn't mean tigers pose any less of a threat to Joe and his team.
There's days they don't feel good. There's days they woke up in a bad mood. Like I said, I've built myself my own prison. If people think that you do this because you're getting rich, they really need to come work here. You can't leave. I wouldn't change it for the world. I have a goal in my life, and that is to be somebody and accomplish something. And that's the way I was raised, and that's what I'm gonna do. I saw my brother killed at the age of 32 years old. I buried my first husband here at the age of 32 years old, and I'm gonna leave this world leaving my mark. I've dealt with so much death in my life, and life's too short to get tied at. So my personality is, I laugh all the time.
Humans have had a close relationship with animals for thousands of years. Scientists agree the domestic dog has been a trusted pet for around 15,000 years. And cats became part of the household from 10,000 years ago. And now it's estimated there are at least 600 million pet cats in the world. Exotic pets have also been kept for thousands of years. It's well documented that the Egyptians kept baboons as pets, and exotic animals kept in the home feature in many ancient texts. In modern times, the keeping of exotic pets has increased. A staggering statistic is that there are more tigers in the U.S. alone than there are in the wild. Animal owners truly believe they are playing a role in preserving the numbers of exotic animals. But on the other side of the debate, there are those who believe it is a cruel practice to keep any animals in captivity. This series explores the issues from both sides, from those who know the dangers, but see the benefits, to others who condemn the keeping of exotic pets. Their stories follow.
His mum actually has put me in hospital for 24 hours, where she bit me when I was feeding her and damaged a tendon. And if I release any pressure off him, he will know that, he'll feel it, and he will then react to that. Extremely strong, extremely strong. You can stress him out too much, yeah, but when he's that little, he's okay. Because they're not going to attack you just because you're there, but if you land on and get too close, it's like anything, you're in their space, they're going to let you know. But look at that, it's beautiful, isn't it? Yep, okay. I might put him back so he doesn't stress out too much.
Australia has a reputation as having some of the most dangerous animals in the world. Gane Doyle has been bitten by almost all of them.
I'm not pulling out the other olive though, because then we'd have a lot more blood shots.
At over 12 feet long, the olive python is Australia's second largest snake. And although it's not venomous, it regularly preys on rock wallabies and even small crocodiles, ambushing them from under the water.
These have got, of course, large teeth. There's over 100 teeth in the mouth on one of these. Very, very strong, extremely strong snake that can make you feel uncomfortable. This one here has wrapped around my neck once and made me feel quite uncomfortable. Now, one of the things that we do here so that the snake knows it's going to be picked up and not being fed is we use our hat. That's why we always wear hats. He now knows, because they are intelligent, he now knows he's not getting fed.
The danger is not from the snake's razor-sharp teeth.
It's the sheer strength. If they wrapped around your neck, it can cause you to black out without any problems. I can feel the strength around my throat at the moment. He wants to go back to his warmth. Extremely strong snake. This particular snake, I had him out at the other end of the shed, just doing a display, and he reached up using me as a perch, and I could feel myself blacking out because he put so much pressure on my neck, it was slowing the blood circulation off to my brain, and I started to feel a bit woozy. Where you going? I'm trying to shut the door back in. Cool.
Gane and his father run the family business, the WA Reptile Park in Perth, Western Australia. He's grown up living alongside Australia's apex predators, venomous snakes, crocodiles, and dingoes. Not all the animals here are deadly, but the majority can do some serious damage. There are some you could keep as pets at your own risk.
There are some pythons that have a few attitude problems, and want to bite or wrap around. You just got to be aware of all that. But, you know, as a pet, they're pretty easy to keep. Yeah, I mean, Lacey there, he's really easy to keep and he's quite friendly, but there's always that chance that something can go wrong. I like him.
Yeah?
Yeah.
What have we got here, Jack?
This is a lace monitor from the eastern states. A lot of people in the eastern states have these as pets. And this one here has bitten me. Got very sharp teeth, but that was only because I was feeding it. It missed the rats that I was feeding it that day and grabbed all 5 fingers on one hand. The claws and the teeth are extremely sharp. When this fella bit me, and again it was only by accident, he did do a bit of slice and dice on my fingers, but there was he didn't cause me any problems to go to hospital or anything like that. Yeah, I may have needed stitches, but I stayed home. I don't like going to hospital too often. Oh, this one's pretty cool. When you actually feed this fella, we give him a scratch on the back. He arcs up the back like he enjoys it. Emotion, no. Personality, yes. This fella has his own little personality. And yeah, look at that. He's beautiful, isn't he?
Closely related to the Komodo dragon, Lacey may be a friendly monitor, but the tools he uses to prey on small mammals and birds in the wild leave their mark on his handlers too.
He's just using it and he's just hanging on, so the points go through. I mean, our skin's soft compared to them. So that's, yeah, you get that all the time. I never worry about any little scratches or anything like that. It's part of the job. You know, getting bitten or scratched or whatever, you know, it happens. It's not the nicest of feelings, you know, being bitten. Yeah, but yeah, with this type of job, it can happen if you you don't pay attention to what you're doing.
A small scratch or even a large bite from a monitor lizard or a crocodile may not bother Gain too much, but surely a tag from one of the world's deadliest snakes would slow him down.
Australia have 17 of the top 20, and this is one of them. And this is one of our local snakes for Western Australia, which is a dugong, which is a brown, but it's our local one around the Perth area. This one here got me in 2016. He wasn't in this cage, he was in another cage, and I was cleaning him out, and I had the words go through my head, turn on the light, and I didn't turn the light on. I hooked him, and he grabbed me. So I don't know which end I was trying to lift, and he actually bit 2 fingers and envenomated me. It was about 25 minutes before I felt any effects, and then spent 30 odd hours in hospital getting one lot of antivenin, and my kidneys stopped working. So I guess now that we've got a special relationship, me and him, he's had a piece of me and I've had a piece of him. Just extremely nice snake.
Not only does Gain still consider the snake that could have killed him to be an extremely nice snake, he takes full responsibility for the incident. He knows only too well how serious the consequences can be if you make a mistake with a deadly predator.
If you get too, a bit blasé or anything like that, and you take your brain out of gear, you can make a mistake. And every now and then you do that, and some can be fatal, or you can end up being crook. I mean, I've made 2 mistakes with 2 venomous snakes in 40 odd years, and it's knocked us around and all the rest of it. But my fault, not the snake's fault, because I was choosing to do something that I shouldn't have done.
While it's certainly unconventional, Gain forms rewarding bonds with animals that many would never consider having as pets.
Well, I used to have my first tiger snake. When he passed away, I was quite upset, because I used to go to do displays and talk to these kids and say, instead of on theory, I now had practical experience of what a snake bite felt like. This was the one that did it. And when he passed away, I was quite upset, because we had that special relationship, that bond of, that was my first bite. Again, that was my fault, but it was still okay. I'm now one of the people that had been bitten by a venomous snake and survived.
This one's bitten you as well.
This one has bitten me as well.
But he's still a nice snake.
It's still a nice snake, yeah.
And in a very Captain Hook moment, we meet the mother of the crocodile we saw earlier, the one that sent Gain to the hospital and could have easily taken his hand.
She bit me when I was doing a feeding display in here with 45 kids. And it was the first chicken of the day, and I normally feed around 12 o'clock, but I decided to do it later. And when I put my hand over with the tongs, because we use tongs for these little fellas, had a chicken on the end of the tong, it saw the hand and just grabbed hold of the hand. I went through all the scenarios of what should I do to get it off. And I thought if I pulled my arm up and put it on the balcony, that see if she would release, but then I realised with those teeth that they slice, she would have done more damage. So I just hung there and just waited. Our eyes met, so we had a moment for a little bit, and then eventually she let go and slipped straight back into the water. I swapped hands and continued on feeding them. It severed 80% of one of my tendons and went through the knuckle. So it wasn't too bad. If it had rolled or twisted, it could have severed the tendons or severed a few more. But I was all okay. I didn't lose any fingers or any movement. Yeah, just out of action.
But does this croc remember his human prey like the crocodile nemesis remembered Captain Hook in Peter Pan?
I think she does. I mean, she's had a taste of me, this one. She knows what I taste like, so yeah, she likes me. Young girl. That's my girl.
Gain's experience working with crocs means, despite their previous encounter, he's not concerned about getting too close this time.
She stays there, because I'm not moving any further to her. She's already let me know that she doesn't want me any closer by a bit of a breathing and huffing at me. I feel quite safe here. She's not going to move any further from where she is. And again, it's the colder weather, and if she was warm, she'd be straight into the pond if I was getting too close. They're not going to try and attack. I've been closer to one and actually fed one closer, and it did get me when it jumped up to when feeding. It jumped up, missed it, and just caught me on the hand, and I was right next to it feeding it. Yep, that's the boy and the girl. They're the dingoes. Go and see them.
Australia's wild dogs, dingoes, are sometimes kept as pets, but most owners will tell you that they can never be completely domesticated.
This is Blondie, and she's a good girl. When we first got Blondie, she broke out of her pen. She found a very small hole, about 6 foot off the ground, and climbed out. But she's so blonde, she showed me where the hole was so I could fix it. Didn't you, girl? Hey? Hey? How about we go and see Max? Hey? Are they allowed to come in, Max? Come on. Hey? He was brought to us to the park because the people, their situation changed. We normally don't take them on if they're over 18 months old because their personalities are really set. But Max was really good. He bonded to us very easily, so I decided to take him on. I don't 100% trust him, but yeah, I can pick when he's not right. Come on. Hey. The only thing with dingoes, you can't train them. They don't come when you call, but they're highly intelligent.
The dingoes are as close to pets as any of the animals here at the WA Reptile Park, but Gain remains alert when around them.
They still have that killer instinct. They'll still knock off other animals. Yeah, people do have them as pets, but they just got to be aware that they're totally different. If you really bring them up right, they are extremely nice pets. But you got to treat them nicely because they don't ever forget.
Having been strangled by a python and bitten by crocodiles, lizards, and deadly venomous snakes, there's still one animal here that Gain won't get close to.
I never trust a wombat. Never turn your back on a wombat. They are dangerous. It's automatic, get out. Especially the males, breeding season, they change and they will attack. And they jump up, and it's pretty dangerous for a bloke because they can jump up about 1 metre high, and if you're facing a wombat and it jumps up 1 metre high and grabs what you don't want it to grab, it's gonna hurt. Has happened in the eastern states. Bloke had a lot of microsurgery, but yeah, no. I'll go and play with a croc any day.
You know, some people don't want to live next to a 400-pound potbelly pig. So, in fairness, when you do live in a kind of a built-up city, you know, choose the right pet.
Riverside County Animal Services are an animal shelter organization and vet clinic servicing one of the largest counties in California.
We cover everything from the city of Riverside, which is a large metropolitan area, all the way out to areas out in the Coachella Valley, which are just undeveloped open areas of natural desert. So we get a little bit of everything.
Each year, they respond to thousands of calls from the public, picking up stray dogs, cats, and the occasional, more unusual lost pet.
Riverside County Animal Services, we are a sheltering service to all the stray animals that come in. And of course, we handle a lot of field service work, and that's our officers out in the field retrieving mostly stray dogs and stray cats, and the occasional stray crazy thing, you know, whether it be the occasional monkey, alligator, Burmese python, or somebody keeping a deer as a pet.
We got a call one afternoon that a woman, her 2 dogs, had cornered an alligator in her backyard. My dispatcher gets on the radio, dispatches it to me, and I kind of made a smart aleck remark of, sure, I'll go pick up the iguana, thinking that they just saw an iguana and thought it was an alligator. I rolled up to the house, got out of my truck, see 2 dogs barking at something in the corner, walk over, tell the woman to grab her dogs, and sure enough, there's an alligator in her backyard.
It's interesting because we get a lot of different snakes that come from like where they come into people's yards, but we have interesting calls too where someone will call for a snake like this. I had a snake just like this, Southern Pacific, that a person called us that they found this snake in their yard and they were in the middle of the city of Riverside and they conveniently had it contained in a terrarium. And so when I GPS'd the address to try to re-release the snake, I was just thinking to myself, there's no way that this snake ended up in the middle of downtown Riverside surrounded by blocks and blocks and blocks of residential housing. So they obviously went on a trip to the mountains, who knows what, took the snake out of the wild again, and then probably the wife or something was like, heck no, you're not keeping that snake. And so they called, you know, animal control and said, oh, I found it in my yard, you know. But stuff like that happens fairly frequently. You know what? Most of the time it's a legitimate call where you can see, you know, their house is butted up against, you know, natural landscape, and it's like, yeah, if you're going to build your home on their habitat, they're going to come into your yard. But occasionally we get these strange calls.
I've personally got one call where someone had a rattlesnake that they had caught and taken it home, stuck it in a china cabinet, put duct tape across the door of the china cabinet and stuck a brick in front of it and had it in there for a week. And then they quickly realized that they couldn't safely open the door to feed it and didn't know how to care for it. So they ended up calling for help, and I ended up having to go in and remove the rattlesnake out of a china cabinet. So that was a pretty poorly thought out plan.
And it's often poor planning and lack of knowledge that puts exotic pet owners and their neighbors in danger.
The animal, when it ends up doing something really bad, the person always says, but he was always so calm and never showed any signs of aggression. But it just takes one time, right, for that person to suffer serious injuries and in some cases death. So the onus is really on that person that owns the exotic, legally if they have it permitted, to protect their fellow neighbors.
In 2009, a 330-pound pet tiger escaped from her enclosure and was discovered in the backyard of a very surprised 79-year-old woman in Ingram, Texas. A 275-pound pet cougar escaped from his cage in a Florida backyard menagerie and killed a neighbor's dog in 2012. And in 2017, a classroom of third graders were surprised to find a 4-foot-long boa constrictor inside their classroom. Officers believe the snake may have been an escaped pet from a nearby house.
Well, you know, when people are having a pet that's a dangerous, you know, they know how to handle it, but the neighbor doesn't, or the little kid next door has no clue on, you know, that you have a dangerous exotic pet. That's where you as the pet owner need to make sure, just like, you know, in the dog world, if you have a large dog, you want to be responsible, make sure it doesn't get out. And same thing, if you have a dangerous exotic animal, and it doesn't mean it has to be a big animal. A monkey, for example, can bite people, which we had happen in one of our cities that we had to respond to. A monkey bit a person at a pizza place because the person thought it would be fun to have a monkey on their shoulder at a pizza place. And so you gotta draw the line sometimes with having a cool pet that's cool for you to have, but making sure your community members are protected and safe. And that would be our message to those folks, is make sure that exotic is not gonna harm anyone.
One of the most common exotic animal escape artists is the snake, and the Riverside team are often called to retrieve venomous reptiles from suburban areas.
So both of these guys are from the local area that were brought in by our animal control officers, and I keep them purely for the purpose of using them for training, for rattlesnake safety and handling. So this one is a western diamondback rattlesnake, and how we came across this one was that there was a woman in Palm Desert who had to be put into a care facility, and when they went in to get her out of the house, she had this snake in an aquarium in her house, and it was a little 10-gallon aquarium. The snake was a really tiny little baby, probably just born that year. And so it was a little 10-gallon aquarium with a fish toy in it, like you would see in a fish aquarium, like a sunken ship toy. So she was trying to keep it as a pet. And so because we don't know the exact location of where it came from, you can't just take it and relocate it and throw it back outside. So for us, the only options are either, you know, you find a home for it with a research facility, or maybe an educational institution. Otherwise, it has to be euthanized, unless we know of the natural area where it came from and we could relocate it within its home range.
While Kim provides Riverside officers with venomous snake handling training, there's no way they can train for every possible animal encounter.
Burmese python is a common home pet, or at least in the state of California it is. Another county officer, she got a call in the middle of the night that a 30-foot snake was going through this person's front yard. She shows up on scene, calls me in the middle of the night, wakes me up, and says, "Hey Dylan, I need some assistance. I have a 30-foot snake." So I thought she was just joking with me at first, and sometimes we joke with each other and give each other prank calls and stuff like that. But I made it down there, and sure enough, there was a large snake under these people's, I believe it was a eucalyptus bush that was going alongside the fence line. All I did was grab it with a catch pole, got that around its head. The snake obviously coiled up around the pole, and then we just carried it to the truck like a rotisserie rack. One person on one side, one person on the other side. We put it in the truck like that. We'd let go of the loop, and it hung out in the truck for the way back.
You know, a lot of the training for some of these exotics kind of happens like that moment in time. You don't really respond to a domesticated deer call every day. When it comes to like a Burmese python, it's, you know, the officers, They're really good with their control stick, or the catch pole, as it's known. Some of these are just really kind of bizarre calls that they just have to use their instincts. Bear in mind, the officers are dealing with some of the most vicious dogs that you might see walking the street. Some of them are bully breed dogs. Some of them are very aggressive. And these officers don't scare easily. In fact, I think the Burmese python scared that one officer more so than a large pit bull coming at her. Those are just such weird, odd calls, and you don't really know how to handle the Burmese python, and you don't want to get choked to death. So those types of calls are sort of like, you learn as you go sometimes.
Every call out comes with a risk, and Riverside officers can just never be sure what they'll encounter when they arrive at a scene.
At the time of it, it's a little hectic and scary just because you don't know if it's fully domesticated. A lot of people, they have these quote-unquote wild animals for pets and never socialize them properly, so sometimes they will bite or do other things that aren't foreseen.
Much of what Riverside County Animal Services does also involves educating the public about choosing the right pet and then providing that pet with the appropriate care.
Those folks that like, for example, to have a Burmese python, sometimes they get them when they're young, and then they're not really fully educating themselves on just how large those snakes can get. And it's not the easiest pet to care for once it's an adult pet. I mean, they get 20 to 30, they get very long and very wide. And when you go out of town and you ask your buddy to, feed your pet, make sure the buddy knows how to close the tank of the Burmese python securely, because that's when you get into problems where, the next door neighbor finds out that you have a 20-foot Burmese python. Educating the general public on exotics is important because some people like to have interesting pets, and then when it comes to animals like a tegu lizard, quite an amazing critter, but they can get big too, and your neighbor may not want to see that tegu lizard knocking on their front door. So, it's really making sure that that exotic pet is going to stay in your property and not wander off, because that can really scare the heck out of somebody if they are finding out that you own that tegu lizard and they didn't know that.
Another one, I had a tegu running down Wood Road. Somebody called for a large lizard in the road, so I arrived on scene. Sure enough, there was, the body was probably only about 2 feet long, but the tail's about 3 feet long, and their tail is stronger than heck, so they can whip you and cut you open with that.
It's kind of like keeping some of the more aggressive dog breeds. If you've got a responsible owner that knows what they're doing, you can keep some of those safely. And then there's some things that you just shouldn't have. When we walk into a house and somebody's caught a rattlesnake from out in the desert and it's in an aquarium, it's a venomous snake. Nobody should be keeping those as pets. Boa constrictor, there are responsible people out there that can keep them as a pet, but it's not a pet for everybody. Most people probably don't have the skills, the ability, the finances, just the space to keep something that can potentially get as large as those are going to get.
We're in the business of promoting responsible pet ownership, whether you own a dog, a cat, or a rabbit, or a horse, a tortoise. We always want people to love that animal and make it part of your family. We don't really have any strong opinion one way or the other when it comes to exotic pets. We just don't like when somebody no longer is interested in being the pet owner of said exotic pet, and then they just release it into the wild and scaring their neighbors, or also shamefully allowing that animal to suffer because it could get hit by a car just like a dog or a cat, or it goes off into the wild and gets killed by other critters. But it's shameful when the pet loses its charm and then they think, oh, I'll just dump it in the riverbed, or I'll just release it. If you have an exotic pet, know how long that pet will be in your life. A tortoise, for example, can live 70, 80, 90, 100 years. So you might want to put the tortoise in your will and know that your son is going to be caring for the next 50 years of that tortoise's life. That's the only thing we'd like to share with people that are interested in exotic pets is know it's a part of your family. And when it loses its charm, don't forget, you're still the pet parent.
The officers at Riverside County Animal Services have dealt with everything from escaped emus to roaming reptiles. And when it comes to exotic animals, they've seen firsthand that too little knowledge can be a dangerous thing.
I think that, at least here in California, for the most part, with stuff that could kill a human being, I think that those who have them that do it legally are able, okay, but they have to reach such a bar. There's such a high bar for them to get to those proper permits and stuff. I'm kind of okay with those people. It's the backyard person who doesn't know what they're doing and doesn't have that training and hasn't gone through all the permitting process and the inspection process to try and keep a lion or a tiger or, something else along those lines that it's a recipe for disaster.
You can go to any zoo, any private place in the United States or around the world, and as soon as there's a fence, you don't have to treat them like a tiger. They're not predators anymore. They're just beautiful, interesting, and here for our enjoyment.
From the fashionable Victorian menagerie to the animal stunts we see in modern movies, exotic animals have long performed for our enjoyment and entertainment. But what happens to the animals when they can no longer perform? Many end up at sanctuaries like the Performing Animal Welfare Society, a 2,300-acre natural habitat wildlife sanctuary located near San Andreas, California. This unique facility is currently home to 9 elephants, 4 lions, 1 black leopard, 7 bears, 22 tigers, and co-founder and president Ed Stewart.
This is Kim, and she's in there with Roy and Claire. She's 15 years old, came out of a roadside zoo in New Hampshire, and was scheduled to go to the pet industry. Somebody intercepted her and brought her to us when they were just cubs. Hi. Hi. I know. You're a wonderful girl. Yeah, you're good.
PAWS provides homes for retired or mistreated animal entertainers and investigates reports of abused performing and exotic animals. Unsurprisingly, Ed has strong feelings about exotic animal ownership of any kind.
I know that there are some good facilities and some are good, some are bad, but the ultimate goal for all of these places is a little murky to me. Is it to return animals to the wild? Is it to teach people about animals? I think all of it is ineffective. In the history of the world, nobody's taken a captive tiger and put it into the wild. And with the shrinking habitat, it's never going to happen. So reintroduction is a pipe dream. It's not going to happen.
And while some may argue that captivity is a valid way of preserving a species or educating the public about conservation, others, like Ed, believe that captivity changes an animal to the extent that it is no longer anything like its ancestors.
Our mission is to give the animals that we take the best life we can give them, knowing that we can't give them a normal life. We can't give her a natural life. She's 15 years old and she has never had to catch her dinner, never had to hunt for her food. We have provided everything. You put an animal in an enclosure, whether it's a big enclosure or a small enclosure, you have totally changed their life. She's an apex predator. She would hunt almost constantly looking for enough food. She would be raising babies. She would have an incredible responsibility in the wild, and she would rely only on herself. Their natural history is so ingrained in them to perform their duties, and you take all that away in captivity. As soon as you put a fence up, you create disrespect for that animal.
It's something of a contradiction for Ed. On one hand, he's against keeping wild animals in captivity. On the other, he keeps captive animals.
We're honestly looking at these animals every day, We really want to do the best we can for them, but the best thing you can do for them is not promote it in captivity, because they're just not designed to live captive. And it's a black and white issue. So we don't look at her or him like a tiger. We look at him as an individual. They're so far removed from a real tiger in the wild. We know we have to do absolutely the best we can for them and give them the nicest place we can to live and the best vet care. But if we had a breeding pair, I would be heart sick if I was the one responsible for creating a litter of baby tigers that would have to live their whole life in a cage. You know, it's just basic freedom for a tiger to be wild.
PAW's Director of Veterinary Services, Dr. Jackie Guy, has the job of ensuring that all the animals are kept healthy. Many of the problems she sees are a direct result of captivity.
Animals in captivity, especially wild animals in captivity, can develop all sorts of problems that are unique to captivity that aren't found in wild populations. So as a captive wildlife veterinarian, I would say probably 95% of the problems that I'm seeing in my patients are related to captivity in one way or another. An example of that is this is a tiger. These are radiographs or x-rays of a tiger's spine he's an adult. He's not an old man by any means, but he's a mature adult. And he's got significant arthritis that, you know, would not be seen in a wild tiger. This is an early onset of really, really severe arthritis.
And the problems Dr. Jackie sees associated with captivity are not just physical health issues.
Confinement is very hard on animals, regardless of the size of the cage. Being confined brings with it all sorts of challenges for especially formerly wild animals or wild animals. Wild animals are not domesticated. In other words, they're not used to being held captive. And so there are instincts that they have that are they're not able to express. And that leads to frustration. It leads to a lot of behavioral problems, a lot of anxiety and stress, which sometimes they'll end up pacing or tossing their heads or doing various repetitive behaviors. And we've all seen that. We've all seen a pacing bear in a cage or a tiger in a cage. That's abnormal. They don't do that in the wild. Also, a really sad thing is when an exotic animal begins to self-mutilate or damage itself, pull its hair out or pull its feathers out. And that's an unfortunate consequence of stress, of being in captivity.
Winston, one of the sanctuary's current bear residents, has only recently stopped displaying those telltale signs of captive boredom.
Captivity, it's a challenge. When you look at California mountains, that's where they should live. The Smoky Mountains, Florida, they're all over the United States. And when they're in captivity, a lot of times, they're one of the worst pacers, one of the worst at rocking their heads. They just don't have anything to do.
As former pets or performers, the animals here are accustomed to being around humans. And many involved in the exotic animal ownership debate believe that they should continue to enjoy human companionship.
Hey, girls. Mara, let's go. Come on, girls, let's go. Come on, Chica. What a good girl. What a good girl. Mara, let's go. Come on, young lady. Good girl. I see. Oh boy. Oh boy.
See their teeth, they're made for eating. You can see it in there. They're made for eating branches and hard brush and eating a very low protein, high fiber diet. We don't ever teach them tricks just to teach them a trick, but in order to check their teeth, it's good to be able to handle them a little bit. We don't go inside with them, but we do it from the outside.
Elephants can be really, really excellent patients. They're very intelligent, they enjoy interacting with us, and we use positive reinforcement training with our elephants, meaning they choose to participate in their own health care, and they're rewarded for that. They're never punished. And so, consequently, it's actually quite easy for me to provide veterinary care for such an intelligent species. They're very easy to work with. They voluntarily will allow me to draw blood, take x-rays, work on their feet. Even more invasive things like collecting a small biopsy, things like that. They have learned that, we're not here to punish or harm them in any way, so they're actually really good patients.
But not all of Dr. Guy's patients are as cooperative as the elephants.
It can definitely be dangerous being around dangerous exotic animals, dangerous wild animals in captivity or free-ranging for anybody, including an owner of an animal, but certainly for the veterinarian. And so again, it takes somebody like myself who's had specialized training to know how to safely treat these animals, but there's always a potential for, somebody to get hurt.
And although Ed feels that captive exotics are no longer the predators they would be in the wild, even he has no doubt they remain potentially deadly.
Predators know that they're predators. They don't know why, maybe, that they're focused on vulnerable things, but they do. Somebody with crutches, somebody in a wheelchair, somebody who's lagging behind, they know, even though they don't have to, it's just part of their nature to stalk and maybe hunt.
And while many owners of exotic pets do provide for all their needs, caring for such unusual animals proves too difficult for many, and they often arrive at sanctuaries with a host of health issues.
We have right now the second oldest African elephant in the country living here. It's almost like a retirement home in some ways, especially for elephants. They're getting old. They have arthritis before they get here. Sometimes they have foot problems, toe problems, infections, or bone problems. And so you just want to give them as many good years as you can.
In a sanctuary situation, you rarely see, young, healthy animals in need of placement. They are oftentimes the product of almost what I would call a puppy mill for tigers, where they're just breeding and breeding and breeding, sometimes for photo shoots and things like that, with no regard for what happens to them after that function is complete, when the tiger is too big to handle or too big to use in public contact or films. A lot of times they're viewed as disposable, and most of them are unhealthy. They'll come to us with all sorts of issues, vision problems, crooked legs, arthritis, early kidney disease is very common. And some of those conditions are genetic. They're congenital problems that are passed on from generation to generation.
For many animal advocates, freedom is the ultimate goal. But once an animal is already in captivity, options are limited.
We do what we can, but we can't give them what they should have, and that's their total freedom. Nothing would make us happier than to release these guys to where they should be. But the fact is, they would not be able to do it. They wouldn't have a herd, they wouldn't know what to do, and they'd probably die within a few weeks or less. Okay, we gotta go. We gotta go. You can't eat this whole bucket. Our happiest times are when we see them up on the hill like this, grazing on fresh green grass. When you have a sanctuary, you live for moments where the animals are doing something that they would be doing in the wild. So if they're in a mud hole, if they're grazing, if they're pushing on a tree, if they're tearing branches off, those are all kind of rewarding times for us. But it's not a substitute for the wild.
While Ed may be able to provide the illusion of freedom to the animals in his care, he's very aware that true freedom is something they'll never know.
If any of these animals could go free, if all of them could go free, we would load them up tomorrow and take them home, take them back and let them go. And I think it's a responsibility for us to tell people the truth about captivity, at least our point of view. And if we don't win the argument, that's okay. We're not going to beat anybody over the head. But I think if you take a step back and look at captivity, it hasn't worked. It's bad for individuals. It's not helping species. So it's time to change the model. Go to the woods, go to the creek, turn over some rocks, look at the animals, teach your children respect for nature, just basic respect for nature. I think that's the starting point. And if we can't turn it around, we can't turn it around, but let's not make tigers and bears and elephants live in enclosures for the rest of their life, generation after generation after generation, for really no reason.